everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast, and we're excited to bring you another interview. And today we're talking again with author Jenny Hale. She has a new book coming out, The Memory Keeper. And Jenny, thank you so much for coming back on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited.
Yeah. So what we thought we'd do, we've been doing with our interviewees lately, is talk a little bit about 2020. How was the whole experience for you as a writer? Did you find you were inspired to write in quarantine, or was it harder, or what has been your 2020 like?
Good old 2020.
I know.
2020 was unique in that, apart from everything else, in that at times there were really great things about being isolated, and at times there were not when it came to writing.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I struggle with is I am an extrovert in that I am energized by people, but I'm not necessarily the life of the party. So I won't be out in the middle of the dance floor, but I need people around me to give me the vibes that jar my creativity. And so I found that sitting in the four walls of my office with just my family all working on their own things quietly, it was very difficult for me to be creative, because I like to sit in a coffee shop and, somewhere out where I can see people and just that sort of buzz. It's sort of like having a fan when you sleep, that sort of just buzz. It
Mm-hmm.
does something for me. So I struggled with that, but it also gave me the time that I needed to write this extra book so that I could start my publishing Imprint, because I write 2 books every year, a summer and a Christmas. But in order to have that extra book to publish under my own Imprint, I had to write a 3rd book within that year. And so for the first time ever in my adult life, all of the baseball practices were canceled and all of the soccer practices were canceled, and there were no after school activities. And I had just time. And so I wrote both my Christmas book, Christmas at Fireside Cabins, and my new book with my new publishing Imprint, The Memory Keeper. I wrote those simultaneously at the same time.
Oh, wow.
So it was a battle of keeping up my creative juices within the 4 walls of my home while also adding another book to my normal schedule.
So did you just alternate what book you were working on each day, or how did that work?
Well, I wrote both every day. What I do when I write my books, I write 1,000 words a day, every single day, 7 days a week,
Mm-hmm.
until it's done. And then I edit 4,000 words when we go into editing. And if I do that, it takes me about 6 months to write and edit and be ready to publish. So I do 2 a year,
Mm-hmm.
because 6 months for one, 6 months for the other. So I had to write this one at the same exact time. And what I found was I tap out creatively at about 1,000 words. I just can't. The best way I can explain it is, imagine I'm watching a show or a story in my head, and I'm just typing and documenting what's going on in that show. That's how my brain works when I'm writing a story. And so I'm typing along what's going on in that show. And all of a sudden, at about 1,000 words, someone just hits pause and they all stare at each other. The whole characters, everybody just stares at each other and has
Mm-hmm.
nothing to say.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I learned about that was I can do 1,000 words on one, but if I go to a totally different book, it starts over and I can do 1,000 words on that
Mm.
book. And it's almost like switching between TV shows. Like if you watch Seinfeld and then turn around and click over to Friends, you don't get confused between what you saw in Seinfeld and what you're
Mm-hmm.
seeing in Friends. And so I was able to compartmentalize them very easily. But
Mm.
where it got tricky was in edits, when you start manipulating the story and moving things around and adding things that people are doing and saying and adding details, keeping track of what I changed for 2 stories proved to be really difficult. So that was a
Yeah,
little
I would
harder.
think that would be hard. And you putting in details from one book that really belongs in the other book, or kind of thing, but
Or you'll be like,
maybe
who's 23 years old now? want
Yeah,
it,
right.
make a change.
Oh my gosh. Wow. So do you think you're gonna keep doing that, writing 2 books at the same time?
No, I wrote this book so that I could have a model for authors who want to publish with my imprint, Harpeth Road Press. I needed them to see kinds of stories our publishing imprint is looking for. And so I had this book out so that I could have something to publish
Mhm,
first, because let me be the guinea pig on my own
mhm,
company. So I put my book out first, and then now I'm getting submissions, and we've opened, and so we'll have other authors to put up. But I'm still under a contract for more books with my current publisher, and I'm just gonna continue on with them for the time being.
okay. Interesting. So, yeah, well, let's talk about this publishing imprint, as you call it. Why don't you explain to us a little bit about what it is and what you're doing there?
Okay. Well, the more I got into this career, the more I longed to have the creative discussions around how to sell the book and the packaging of the book, how to write the blurb, how to get readers involved, how to reach readers. All of those things uh, are just really interesting to me. And so my motivation for writing was more to do that. And that's the job of the publisher. And so while I absolutely adore my publisher, and they all know that I just always want to have a seat at their table, um, they have to do their job and I have to do mine. And so I decided to branch out into the publishing realm because I had real ideas about what I saw in my vision for my writing. And not to knock anything that they're doing, because they're amazing, but if I had my way, I told them if I had my way, I'd be, right there with them every day talking about how to sell my book. So I opened up my new publishing imprint, um, and obviously let them know that I was doing that. And so now I get to write the story, but I also get to do all of the sales of that story. I have created a marketing plan, and I've hired people to do social media ads, um, and I put together the package, and I fed back on the cover design, and so those sorts of things are things that I never got to do, um, by no fault of anyone's at all, just in the way that
Mhm.
publishers work. So I did it almost like creative expression, and so I created this publishing imprint. And now, if authors write a story and they would like to sell that story, then they submit to the just like any other publisher. They submit to us, and it goes through uh, pretty heavy edits, and then we work on package design and marketing and PR, and then put it out into the world.
So what kind of authors are you looking for, and are you taking, like, unagented, manuscripts, or what, what's your plan with that going?
We take both agented and unagented. We've signed two people so far. One has an agent, one doesn't. Um, because at the end of the day, what I really want is a great story. So whether you find us through an agent or not through an agent isn't of importance to me, because I
Mhm,
just want to share great stories with people. But we're looking for romantic fiction, and I've been relatively vague about that, again, because at the end of the day, I don't want to pigeonhole it and say we're looking for specifically this, because there might be another story out there that'll just knock my socks off. That's not necessarily what I thought I was looking for. So I just keep it open to romantic fiction. I think, there's so many different ways to tell a love story that
mhm,
I just really enjoy seeing what people come up with, what they
mhm.
send my way.
Do you have any parameters as far as content? Are you trying to keep it, I don't know if it's family friendly is the right word, but clean romance, or does that not matter?
I definitely want to keep it on the cleaner side, but
Mm-hmm.
how steamy you take the romance, it just depends on the story and how
Mm-hmm.
well it fits. You know what I mean? If it's
Mm-hmm.
necessary, then it is. But
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't take erotica at
Mm-hmm.
this point. I think, and partly because not to knock it, it's just that I have to take stories that I feel passionate about that I know I can sell. And I don't know if someone who wrote that type of book would want me to try to figure out how to sell it. I
Mm-hmm.
think
Mm-hmm.
I need to do what I do best. And that would be
Mm-hmm.
focusing on romance and general romantic fiction.
Cool. So if somebody has a manuscript, how would they present it to you?
On our website, our imprint name is Harpeth, Harpeth, Harpeth Road Press. And we got that name because the Harpeth River runs around Nashville and it's very windy and twisty. And so I felt like my publishing journey kind of was like that, and finding my home for my books. And it's also based in Nashville. And I feel like Nashville is where I really blossomed creatively. So anyway, they can go to www.harpethroad.com. And there we have a submissions page. We have one for agents and one for unagented, and it gives all the directions to submit.
Hmm, very cool. And is there anything that you're particularly looking for, like theme wise, like holiday reads, or no, just whatever people want to do?
I think it's just, like I said, a good story. I mean, I think there's sometimes you can take a story and think, oh, this would be great at Christmas
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. But I'm always thinking when I read submissions, I never just take it at face value. I always think, how can, is there a way I could use this? Is there a way that I could, make this a Christmas book? And then I'll have a conversation with the author, and we'll see where we go from there. So no, I mean, I think we have two Valentine's books contracted at the moment, and the one I put out, The Memory Keeper, happens right after Valentine's Day. So it'd be nice to maybe not have another
Mm.
Valentine's book. We'll have them all do it the same time, and I'll be pulling my hair out trying to get my own writing done while I'm doing every single Valentine's book we have. So yeah, I mean, I think at this very moment, Valentine's might be off the table, but
But
you
your
know,
book is pretty mild, I would say, with
mhm,
Valentine's.
it
There's
is.
not
Yeah,
much.
correct. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
wanted to do that because I wanted to make sure that in terms of package and in terms of story, that it was more about the story. I didn't want people to think, oh, I'm going to buy this because it's a Valentine's read, the way they might buy
Yeah.
a Christmas read.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kept it pretty low.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's dive in. Let's talk about the book.
Okay.
And if you're somebody who, just a note to the listeners, if you're someone who doesn't want to know any details at all, then you might want to go read it and then listen. But we'll try to keep it relatively spoiler free, uh,
Mm.
but just talking about more basic things about the characters and some other stuff. So, the Memory Keeper. So this book, it takes on a lot. It has a lot going on,
Hmm.
and how did you get the kind of the basic idea for the book?
The idea originated in that first scene, the airport scene.
Ah.
That's
Mm-hmm.
sort of what hit me first. And I had this idea. And originally, I had this sort of idea around this road trip, the airport debacle, and then this road trip. But as I went through, and I do a lot of pre writing before I start, and as I went through the character arcs and things, I started to say, well, we're going to get a deeper story if we don't have an entire novel on a road trip. If we have her actually getting to town and finding out what's going on. So, and I didn't have a whole lot of detail at that point. These are just all ideas that flow through my head. So then I thought, well, if I have, the airport and then a tiny road trip, then we need to pull in those sort of hallmarks to my writing in that I have usually a grandparent and multi-generational and small towns, and the people working through. I think everyone needs to have a sort of deeper character arc that they're working through that changes them personally without changing who they are.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
so
because
that's when I built them.
really, you could have a whole movie just, and we have had a whole movies just about the road trip part of it at the beginning.
Mhm. I know. I know.
And then it goes into worrying about her grandma, and then also finding the journal, and we'll talk all about that. But yeah, it starts out as this road trip movie. She gets dumped at the beginning, and and that was pretty interesting. And so we get to meet Hannah, and then Liam finds her at the airport. And so these two characters, how did you come up with these characters?
You know, it's so tricky because I don't really people have asked, like, do you go on the internet and look for pictures? And I just sort of see them. And when
Mhm.
I see them in their entirety. And then how they work through their problems get deeper as I go through my edits. But I mean, I kind of see the surface them, and then it's sort of picking them apart, what's driving them and what are their motivations, and what background traumas or experiences have shaped those reactions. And so
Mhm.
that's sort of how I build the character. But so it I build them, I guess, in layers, but I see them 100% just in my mind's eye, like you would see someone in a grocery store.
Mhm.
And then I build them up. So I don't know how they came to me. They just did. I just saw
Yeah.
Hannah and Liam and said, "These are the ones."
Yeah. So Hannah, she had a relationship with, or a friendship with Ethan in the story, but never really, I think, knew too much about Liam growing up. And then she kind of goes away in classic kind of this type of story fashion. And she has this city experience, and then her but has this very close relationship with her grandma. And but Liam, I thought, was an interesting character because he's not the best dad. He's kind of a bit of an absent father and a bit of
Yes.
aloof. And I think that that could have made him unlikable. And was that something that you struggled with?
Yeah. I mean, what I wanted for him was he's so sort of in his own way lost in his grief. I mean, he's creating his business basically in the ghost of his wife. It was her business, and he's sort of absently working through his grief by being a workaholic, and in doing that sort of lost that time with his son, but didn't know how to recoup it. He just didn't know how to get it back. And so Hannah sort of pulls that back out of him because he I wanted to juxtapose the Liam Sheen remembered as a kid, that sort of carefree singer, bonfire guy.
Mhm.
And then now what in the world has happened to him? That he's just like, she would have never imagined a guy like that to not be an amazing dad, you know?
Mhm.
And I think that people deal with that, that happens in life. So it was tricky, and I knew it was a risk doing it, but I thought, if I can just have that moment, it's such a glorious moment when he figures it out, that
Mhm.
it was worth the worry about him being disliked, I think, for me.
Mhm.
It
Yeah.
was my risk, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it was very interesting to me because I just thought, boy, I mean, he's just being not very nice to his son, and you just don't expect that kind of character in this kind of story. But he learned and he grew, and I don't mind flawed. In fact, I like flawed characters in stories because then they can grow and learn and become better people. And could you, with Hannah, could you relate to her as a character? I mean, she's somebody who's pretty she's independent, but she's also kind of insecure about things. She needs a lot of reinforcement as far as her relationships and some of her other things. Like I felt like there was an interesting pull it back and forth between in her character.
Yeah, I think she also was driven in that she had a goal that she wanted to accomplish by going to New York.
Mm-hmm.
But she didn't really, in accomplishing that goal, she didn't really learn about who she was,
Mm-hmm.
which is where her insecurity sort of comes in because
Yeah.
she didn't really grow. She did it. She ticked the box, but she didn't really grow, and that's why her still to that to the this day her quote best friend was somebody from high school because she doesn't have any best friends. She hasn't really moved forward in life. And I think sometimes there are people like that who are sort of stuck in who they were as a young person, and they haven't moved through the growth that she moves through. And so her growth happens also once she gets home and has to actually confront who she is she the small town girl, or is she the city girl, or is she somewhere in the middle?
Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of her
Yeah.
her thing, her problem to figure out.
I like that. It was good. And so they meet this woman, Georgia, who ends up becoming their trio in the road trip part of the movie. Watching too much Sundance. The road trip part of the book. And so Georgia, was she based on anybody that you know?
No, she just
No.
came to me, just totally came to me,
Uh-huh.
and in her long sweater and her jeans.
Yeah. She was really fun because she was kooky and kind of encouraged them in their romance and in cute ways. And I don't know, I liked her. But then there was also definitely some heart to her with her trying to connect with her birth parents and her whole story of why she was going to the town.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Georgia, one, I needed a little bit of comic relief with the heaviness that the two were facing, and with
Uh-huh.
with Graham, uh, dealing with what she was dealing with, and all of the trauma with seeing Hannah's boyfriend at the airport. And so she had this light air to her, but I also wanted her to be light enough that she would book a flight and and run off to a town that she doesn't even know if her parents are there.
Mhm.
um and so I wanted her to be light and sort of all over the place,
Yeah,
because I think it made her her journey make more sense.
yeah. I liked her as a character, that she was fun, and also just her willingness to kind of embrace the moment was very appealing in a character.
Yeah, and I think we all want that. We all want to be better at that. And so she sort
Mhm.
of was that personification of, like, what if you did just paint paintings and run off to wherever, Chicago, after
Yeah,
someone,
yeah.
what, because most people would think that through and not make that decision. So I wanted her to be a good what if kind of
Well,
person.
and I think especially in after what we've all experienced, we all kind of wanna be more like that in the once things get back to some form of normalcy. I
Right.
think we all wanna embrace things maybe more than we did before.
For sure. For sure.
Mhm. And so then we finally get to meet Gran. She's been in the hospital. Heard a lot about her, and we find her journal. So then there becomes this other part of the story about her past and her past loves. And so, what gave you the idea to do that?
I think that I needed um I needed to have the two sides of the memory keeper, because we have the side that it is now. And then in order to grow for Hannah, she has to understand where the memory keeper began. And so in learning that, it helped her to sort of work through some of who she is and what her purpose is. Because at the start of the book, her purpose is ticking those boxes and saying, yes, I made it to, this blah, blah, blah job. And I went through this school and, but what is meant for her? And the only way to really get to the crux of that was to understand why it's meant for. And so we needed the journal to do that. I could have had Gran tell her all that stuff, but I just thought it was more fun to tell it in pieces and snippets so that she can
Mhm.
then go talk to her Gran about it.
Yeah, well, and I think it was also that you can't plan out everything in your life, that sometimes things happen and you have to, and you just have to kind of go with where life leads you.
And sometimes that's right. If
Mhm.
you do it, sometimes you realize that it was actually exactly where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
So I think you're
Yeah, I
spot
like
on.
that. That was good. So there's also this whole plot of saving this floral shop that they have, that Grans has this floral shop, and I you kind of have a little bit with it involving Liam, and then her and Hannah, getting involved, and there's also this mural that's going that she wants done in the shop, and so that involves Ethan as a character. It's a lot going on with this floor shop.
And I did that on purpose because that's the hub. I mean, that's the memory keeper, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where, in its heyday, everyone was. They all came to the memory keeper,
Mm-hmm.
and so this is a place where sort of all the stories converge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Uh and there's just like an energy about the store because it's where it meant so much to her grandmother who she loves.
Yes.
Mhm.
And how do you harness that energy? It's still there, even
Mhm.
though the place is in disrepair. So how do you sort of um, bring it back to life? And
Mhm.
in doing so, how do you bring everyone else back to life too? Because, even Ethan sort of had fallen into that, monotony, when really there was more meant for him. And
Mhm.
um, you know, and same with all of them. I mean, Liam, Hannah, all of them have bigger futures than they were living at the time.
Mhm. With Grant, did you have a close relationship with your grandmothers? Is that all kind of feeding off of that?
It's interesting. I had one of my grandmothers who, looking back on her life and what I know of her, I think I would be the closest with. I didn't get to know very well because she passed away when I was really young. And then my other grandmother, I did get to know, but she was far away. We were out of state, so I only saw her like once or twice a year. But I mean, I was close with her,
Mhm.
and still have really great stories of her. So I think sometimes I pull in, this sort of vibe of my own grandparents. But sometimes I fill in the pieces,
Uh-huh.
for grandparents, especially because of my one grandmother who I didn't get to know, but I swear to you, I think we would be like besties if I
Mhm.
knew her.
Well, and you get to see now your parents being grandparents. That must be
Hmm.
kind of fun.
Yeah, it
Mhm.
is. I mean, they're all just, it's, I think I've said before, we have sort of layers to who we are. And, their parenting layer is different than their grandparenting layer.
Mhm.
And so it's interesting to see that dynamic and see how it plays out.
Yeah.
But I know my son is 14 and he still will FaceTime his grandmother, probably a couple of times a week.
Mm. Yeah, I had a really close relationship with my uh particularly, I mean, I was close to most of my grandparents. There was particularly one grandma and one grandpa on both sides, actually, that I was especially close with. And I I don't know, I loved talking with them. I got so much comfort for them. And there was just no doubt that they loved me no matter what. And
Right.
I, of course, my parents do as well, but I don't know, there was just something so comforting about being with both of them and their love. And I don't know, maybe it's because it's not, there's not like in the same worry that a parent has.
Hmm.
It's a little bit freer, if that makes sense.
I think so. I mean, they don't have to
Mhm.
do any of the disciplining,
Right.
like they can just do the love, which
Yeah.
is so great. That's why we all
Right.
love our grandparents so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, and I could definitely see some of my grandma in Gran's character. She was very, like, sure about her opinion on things, uh, but was also a really fun person to talk with, and you just loved when I don't know, both of my grandparents, when you were with them, you felt like you were the favorite grandkid. They
Mhm.
liked you the best.
That's great. That's great.
and, and I remember when my grandma first started having some health problems. She passed away in 2019, and but uh, when she had first started to have some health problems, I called my sister who was living by her at the time, and I said, "Well, let me know because I have a special relationship with grandma. I want to make sure that I'm there if there's a
Mhm.
problem or whatever." And and she told me, she's like, "You know, all of the cousins have said some variation on that today." And I'm like, it was funny.
That's
But
great.
there's just something so special about that relationship. And so that was a nice part of the story. And to be able to go back and have that flashback, I really enjoyed. And so yeah, I really enjoyed the first kiss between
Mhm.
Liam and Hannah, and that must have been kind of tricky to write.
Yeah. I mean, it always is, like when, sometimes I'll write the kiss in and then I'll go back and delete it because I'm like, they can't kiss yet.
Yeah.
It's supposed to kiss, but because there's always that sort of lingering tension, when you just
Uh-huh.
want him to do it and
Yeah.
he won't, but so yeah, I mean, every time I write it, it's it's tricky to know when.
Well,
What did
see,
you like about it? What was specific?
well, it was I liked it because why did I like it? I It's hard to articulate sometimes. I liked it because it was built they built it you built it well, um
I'm glad you
and
say that because I was worried that people were going to be like, "What?
yeah,
He doesn't do that in his sleep." You know.
right. But I don't know, like it was very intimate and without going too far.
Mhm.
Um and I don't know, I just thought it was sexy. It was good.
I'm glad because again,
Yeah.
when you're writing it, you're sort of in those characters, and so, like I
Uh-huh.
said, I'm watching the characters and I'm writing it, and so there were times where I thought, you know,
Yeah. Well, because
is this the right time?
well, and you have to be careful in that kind of situation because you have to keep her consent, and
Uh huh.
that
Hmm.
she's aware and everything, and I think you did. And I think that when we have the near kisses, which is so frequent, of course, in these types of stories, that a lot of times it feels very false because in real life, I think a near kiss, as far as drama, wouldn't be all that different than our actual kiss. Like if I almost
Right.
kiss somebody, it would basically bring up the same kinds of conflict that actually kissing them would do. I don't think it would be that different.
Right.
And
And I mean, would you, how many actual, I mean, maybe I'm naive, but how many actual near kisses are there
No,
really?
I
When
I've
you
never
just
heard of
go
it in
for
my
it?
life. I mean, especially when it's something so stupid like a phone rings or some sound or whatever. Like if it's a child coming into the room, I can understand that
True,
because
true. Yeah, I'm not knocking it because I think I've probably written a few, but that's what I was just thinking. As in real life, I think
in
you would
real
just
life
go for it.
yeah, you would. That's the only honestly, I think a child coming into the room is probably the only thing I could think of that would unless you're trying to hide your relationship for some reason.
Right.
Uh, but I don't know. I just feel like in reality, the conflict would be the same. You'd
Hmm.
still be like, "Oh, you almost kissed me. Why did you almost kiss me?" It's not that different than you kissed me. And so I enjoyed it. I thought that was good. And then their relationship kind of grows from there. But did was it fun to write sort of a road trip movie in 2020 when we can't go on road trips very well?
Yes, I mean, I truly, I swear to you, I had to keep reminding myself not to like put masks on them
Yeah.
because it was so ingrained
Yeah.
to put them on that it was, it's almost like you're forgetting something, and then you're like, oh wait, they don't need to, because I'd be like, can they just go in and do that? And I'd be like, oh yeah, they can, because it's not really going on
Yeah.
during COVID.
Right.
They can walk in the store,
They don't have to
totally
be
fine.
6 feet apart.
Right. She can, like, have the spider in her bed in the middle of, the
Yeah.
hotel with two people that she's not with. Yeah.
Well,
So I
hey,
did keep
if I
thinking that.
yeah, if I was writing this book though, I would order a bunch of flowers for myself and just be like, "It's research,"
That is
because I
true.
love flowers.
Yeah, I do too. I actually will get them at the grocery store and then just
Uh-huh.
arrange them myself like a florist would do.
Yeah.
And I do that a lot.
Yeah.
I'm
That's
always getting
good to
myself
do.
flowers.
I know, I should because I love it
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
much, but I
Yes.
always yeah. Well, congratulations on the book and the publishing imprint
Thank
and
you.
everything. That's very exciting. That's a huge accomplishment.
Thank you so much. It's been a lot of work, and I couldn't have done all of it without quarantine. I think,
Uh-huh.
when the world opens up is when my work will really begin, because then I'll get to see if I can handle it all. But yeah, it has been a lot of work, but it's what I love to do,
Yeah.
so it doesn't
That's
feel like work.
great. That's great. Well, I think last time I didn't have a chance to re-listen to it, but I think last time we did the regular questions at the end of the
Oh yeah,
interview.
we did. Hmm.
So this time you get the holiday questions. So put
Okay.
on your Santa hat for these questions. First
Okay.
question is, what is your favorite holiday drink?
Mm. I think I love when fall comes. I don't know. I guess
Uh-huh.
it's sort of a fall drink, but the pumpkin spice lattes. I am so totally that
Oh,
girl.
you're a
I am
big
that girl.
PSL.
I was actually on one of my favorite coffee shop had me on their stories on Instagram because I was the first one to order one.
That's funny.
That was
uh,
front and center.
yeah. What is your favorite holiday cookie or treat?
Mm, I like pretty much any of it. I mean, really, I would eat any of it. I think I like there's a chocolate chip cookie recipe. I've put it on my blog a couple times where that's like all homemade goodness, and it's
Oh,
got big
there's
giant
nothing
chocolate chips
better
in
than
it.
a hot chocolate chip cookie. I
Yes,
mean,
that's my favorite.
oh, yeah. And the secret is to any cookie is to slightly underbake it. Just
Yes.
take it out like 30 seconds a minute maybe before what it says on the recipe. And
Yes. I do that too.
they make it so much softer and yummier.
I do. And I'll stare at the edges. And if they even slightly get brown, I take it
Yeah,
out.
because
Yeah.
you think, oh, it's way underdone. Nope, it's perfect.
It'll cool. It'll cool and congeal, and then it's perfect.
Yeah. All right. What is your favorite Christmas song or carol?
I like the Mariah Carey. Was All I Want for Christmas Is
Oh,
You.
yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah,
That's like
can't
my
beat that.
fave, my go-to.
Mhm. What is your favorite classic Christmas movie?
I would say if I had to pick just one, it would probably be National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Oh, nice. I
But
actually got
but Home Alone would be also. I would feel bad
I
not saying
love
that one
Home
too.
Alone. I
Yeah.
I actually got to see Christmas Vacation on the big screen this last holidays. My friend did a private movie rental, screen
Oh,
rental,
very
whatever.
cool.
Yeah. And so there were
Hmm.
only like, 12 of us or whatever in the theater, all spread out. And that was really fun.
That's
Uh
awesome.
yeah. Um what is your favorite holiday tradition?
Hmm. I really love every year we get in the car, we bundle up and get in the car and we go on a big giant tour of Christmas lights, like tacky Christmas
Mm,
lights. And my husband gets really into it and he makes a map. Like he gets it all set in his phone so that it's a whole map and he researches
uh-huh.
it. And then we just drive the route and go look at all the Christmas lights and I get out and take pictures and the kids get to see it. And
Well, at
we,
least that's something
yeah.
that you could have done this year.
Yeah, we did.
So that's
We
nice.
yeah, we actually went through because we're Nashville. We went through they had a giant light show that was at their racetrack in
Oh,
Nashville. And we drove, it's like a giant maze and you just drive through all these enormous lights. And then we went on our regular tour. I went to see the lights
cool.
outside.
That sounds
It was
great.
very cool.
All right, which do you like better, Scrooge or the Grinch?
Hmm. I feel like that's hard. I feel like Scrooge because I still feel like you could like um convince him. You could sweet talk Scrooge. That's what I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah. Well, they both become redeemed in the end. So,
True, true.
um, clear lights are colored.
Clear. But I
Okay.
do like the color when I'm going to look at all the everybody's houses, but my
Yeah,
house is clear.
right. Okay. Would you rather be in a snowball fight or build a snowman?
Probably build a snowman because
Mm.
I'm not a fan of getting hit in the face
Okay,
with wet
good.
ice.
Would you consider yourself a good gift wrapper or not?
I'm obsessive about gift wrapping, like
Obsessive.
type A psycho, like grade one psycho. It's like origami at my house. When we do Christmas wrapping, we have like I seal myself into a room for hours,
Uh,
and I have like coordinated paper and like real ribbons, and I actually make little V's on all the ends of all the ribbons, and I fold it perfectly so the like pages all line up. It's an OCD problem that I have at Christmas time.
Very good. Okay. Last question. Do you have an ugly Christmas sweater? And what does it look like?
I don't. I don't. And we said we were going to get one, but we never did because then COVID hit and we were like, well, what's the point? I guess we can wear them for each other. But,
You're like, I could
you got
have,
to wear it out.
yeah, you're like, I could have an ugly Christmas mask.
Right. I'll just wear my pajamas and they're Christmas, so that'll work.
Very, all right. Well, you passed the test. Very good.
Yay.
And we'll have all the information if people want to check out the Memory Keeper in the description. Make sure you take a look at that. And then we'll also have a link to your website. People can sign up for your newsletter and to get all the information about upcoming books. And is there a link on there if they want to submit the publishing imprint?
They're two different websites,
Okay.
so you can choose. You can do my author website if you like, because I think if they want to go find Harpeth Road, it's harpethroad.com.
Okay. Well, we can put
If they
both
want
in there.
that.
That'll be
Okay,
good.
great.
And that'll be great. Well, keep us posted on how things are going for you. And if any of you all listening, if you read the book, let us know what you think in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And if people want to find you on social media, how can they do that?
On Twitter, I'm J Hale Author. On Instagram, I'm also J Hale Author, and then on Facebook, I'm Jenny Hale Author.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Check that out. I'm going to be covering Sundance all week long. And then also make sure you're following the Hallmarkies podcast all over social media. And if you're listening on iTunes, please leave us your ratings and reviews. We really appreciate that. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you check out our award show that we just did, which was pretty fun. We had a great time with that. And we also have our patron group and our merch store. Lots of fun stuff going on. So thanks so much, Jenny. This was great to talk with you. And we'll have to have you back when you do more of your books.
Absolutely. It was super fun.
All right. We'll talk to you all later. Bye, everyone.